I'm getting a sense of deja vu. Anyway, welcome to this meeting. It's only executive lead members who are present in the room that are taking the decisions at the meeting. Others in their attendance are there to provide advice. There are no planned fire drills today. In the event of a fire alarm, please follow the fire exit signs and congregate in the car park. And if anybody present might need assistance in exiting the room, then please let one of the Democratic Services team know. And I think Mike Bryant and Claire Rendell are the two nominated people who will indicate. There we go. That's it. Follow them. So the agenda and meeting papers have been published on the Council's website in advance of the meeting, and the Council recognises the importance of striking the balance between providing opportunities for the lawful expression of views and any unacceptable behaviours or actions that cause disruption can lead to our meetings being adjourned. The Council will be making a recording of this meeting, and this will be published in due course. So today's meeting will also be run using a hybrid format. Executive lead members and key officers are physically present here in the council chamber at Frome Town Hall. Can I just take this opportunity to thank Frome Town Council for their generosity in allowing Somerset Council to hold this important meeting here today in Frome. Other elected members and officers may physically or remotely join the meeting to speak on specific agenda items or observe, and the meeting is being broadcast, and therefore other members of the public and partners can observe the meeting remotely. If you are participating in hybrid format, please only use the meeting chat for the purposes of the meeting, primarily to indicate that you wish to speak, but I would prefer it if you could use the hands up function. Please say your name before speaking, and please make sure that you turn off microphones and cameras when not speaking. I can see a number of people in the room who've got their cameras on. It does help us hugely with the bandwidth if you can pop your cameras off. That would be, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So we have item 1 on our agenda is our apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Graham Oakes and Councillor Federica Smith-Roberts from lead members, Associate Lead Member Joe Randall Green, and also from Chief Executive Duncan Sharkey. Are there any other apologies for absence? Thank you very much. Item 2 on our agenda is declarations of interest. Any members wish to declare an interest in any item on our agenda today? Okay, not seeing any members. So it falls to me to introduce the meeting. So I'll explain how the meeting will work and give some context to where we are at the moment. So the ownership of the Saxon Vale site was passed from the former Mendip District Council to the Somerset Council on vesting day in April 2023. Following the withdrawal of Acorn from the scheme, following the previous executive meeting in July 2024, Somerset Council has been in negotiations with Mayday Saxon Vale to bring forward their proposal for the site. In doing so, we recognise that this is a hugely important site for the community of Frome. The site also has a financial significance for the wider Somerset community. The land was acquired with a significant investment of public money, and we have a legal duty under Section 123 of the Local Government Act 1974 to ensure that we get best value for our council taxpayers. In any land sale decision, the council has to compare the financial and commercial terms of different options. This involves consideration of commercially sensitive information, which we cannot discuss in public. For the executive to make an informed decision, we will need to consider these documents in a private session. So at the appropriate time, there will be a vote and resolution to enter that private session. Elected members of Somerset Council, officers and professional advisors will then remain in the room to meet in confidential session. And once complete, we will return the public session to make our decision. And I believe members of the public are invited to head downstairs to the cafeteria area. So we move on to item 4, which is public questions. And we've received 4 public questions this morning. We'll take all 4 in turn. I assume that public speakers are coming up to the lectern in front of me if they are able. And the first public speaker is Councillor Anita Collier from Frome Town Council. Anita.
me the time to speak. I'm sure it'll come as no surprise to you that I am wholeheartedly in support of the Mayday Saxon Vale application. I spoke in favour of it at the last meeting, and like so many residents in this wonderful town, I'm excited at the prospect that this proposition is being seriously considered today, and that we may finally begin to see all those aspirations that we share with Mayday coming to fruition. I'm supportive from two aspects. Firstly, as a town councillor, standing by its residents, who have all shown all too clearly that the vision portrayed in Mayday's plans exactly matches what this town is craving. Because they will build the right social housing, the right type and size of employment space, wonderful community spaces in which to socialise and be entertained, innovative ideas like community kitchens, and the flair, the creative flair, to bring it all together. Secondly, I support it as a long-standing resident who's lived here since 1964. I clearly recall the vibrancy that emanated from this once industrial site, and I truly believe that Mayday's plan will go a long way to recreating that atmosphere with its bustling businesses, ambient walkways, clever and well thought out housing designs, public spaces alive with activity, and all the while being mindful of what is environmentally friendly. This is a hugely important town space, and I don't think it's any exaggeration to say that this decision today could allow Frome to fly boldly into its future, becoming a feather in Somerset's cap. Alternatively, we could be standing by and watching it as our businesses fail to thrive, and our young people who are seeking to work here will be forced to look elsewhere. But imagine the excitement of Frome people if they finally learn that this crucial piece of land will be brought back into use with all their visions becoming reality, and being brought about by a band of people who truly have the town's interest at heart and will continually invest in its growth and prosperity. I cannot stress enough the joy that will be expressed if you sign this off today. There will be celebrations across the town, raising a glass to Somerset even, with the anticipation of what will be, with any doubt, the biggest and the best thing to happen to this town for decades. So please, please, grant us the chance to watch this pivotal area thrive, offering us all enormous hope for the future of Frome. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Anita. And next public speaker will be Councillor Steve Tanner from Frome Town Council. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to thank the Executive of Somerset Council for holding this meeting in Frome. It actually means a great deal to us, and I'm sure it does to the town. When I was first involved in the Saxondale project many years ago, imagining the possibility of a community-led development that would offer Frome all it desired from this site felt like a very dim and distant dream. Hopefully, by the end of today, that dream will be one gigantic step towards becoming a reality. As you have heard, the town are very excited and want this to go ahead. We at Frome Town Council are excited and want this to go ahead, and the officers have recommended that it goes ahead. Please vote with the officer's recommendation, and we look forward to continuing the work and support with the Mayday Group to finally realise this dream for the whole of Frome. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And our next public speaker is Dr. Patricia Smith from Frome Civic Society.
Am I on now? Yeah. Okay. The civic society, as I'm sure you know, like all civic societies, is an independent body. So that means everything I say today, we have discussed and come to a consensus on that we believe. A few very short points. Firstly, we do need to move forward. We need to realise the very large unfulfilled potential of these 12 precious acres at the very heart of our town. This site has been blighted for decades as owners and developers have come up with scheme after scheme which have all failed. And I think I can say fairly that after more than 6 years in possession, Somerset Council has had a fair crack of the whip at trying to do that, which we acknowledge. But we need to release the site and we need to get it right this time. And time has shown that the conventional approach to development, which is built around maximising land value and meeting commercial profit expectations, does not work for this particular site. That's the case for a supermarket complex as we once had, or a housing estate. Plans contingent on maximising financial returns have consistently failed to deliver an acceptable development mix for this unique town centre site. Mayday does bring a different perspective in that it is committed, in our view, to optimum rather than maximum returns, which means we can optimise the potential of the site as a genuine urban asset for life, work, leisure and community. We can finally take the chance to reinvigorate our existing town centre, to bring in more visitors and to boost our local economy, which has to be a win for everyone. And we can look forward to the prospect of genuinely affordable homes and sustainable development. These are the real returns that the people of Frome have been asking for over the years. We don't think this will be an easy project. We need certainty that whoever gets the keys to Saxonvale, so to say, will fulfil the vision they have set up. We do think the Mayday Partnership framework, it's unconventional, but it is a credible and transparent vehicle for doing this on a due diligence basis. Finally, we need to remember this application is only at outline stage. We need to be confident that all those reserved matters applications that will be coming forward will be informed by genuine consultation. Mayday has built its goodwill and support amongst local people. It is in their interests to keep talking and listening to stakeholders as the project proceeds. We believe that they will do so and that they will create something that is a credit to Frome and also to Somerset. So please do sell the site to Mayday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patricia. And the final public speaker, and I think the first time we've been addressed by a Member of Parliament at Somerset Council, is Anna Sabine, Member of Parliament for Frome and North East Somerset. Oh.
Not the North, that's someone else. Thanks for allowing me to speak today. I'm going to make 3 brief points, and I'm sorry I'm facing this way because I kind of feel I'm addressing this to you, so spiritually it's coming to you. 3 points. Firstly, I want to acknowledge that there's a UK-wide housing crisis, and we all know that Frome has declared a housing emergency. As someone who represents the whole of Frome, I'm here to raise up the voices of the many, many very engaged people who are actively working for, and sometimes against, new housing developments. But I'm also here to represent the less engaged voices of the many people I know and I meet through my surgeries who are in dire housing need, often living in entirely unsuitable or unpleasant housing, or with their parents, or sofa surfing. This site has benefited from Homes England money because they recognised the potential that Saxonvale has to deliver a number of new homes for Frome. Secondly, I want to say and just acknowledge that I know how difficult and emotional this process has been, a process that started long before I became the MP for Frome. And I want to thank everyone who's been involved, be it the amazing local community, who as ever have put Frome's aspirations front and centre, or the staff and councillors at Somerset and previously Mendip, who I know have been doing their best in a really difficult situation. I'm really glad we've got to this point where the hopes of the community look set to be given the chance of being delivered. Thirdly, and finally, looking forwards, I'm really excited to get to work with Mayday and with the wider local community to get these plans delivered, because I think they represent, as has been said, a real opportunity for Frome. As Damon may recall from when we first met, I feel very strongly about the importance of community engagement in planning and housing, and I hope the whole Frome community will be encouraged to get engaged all the way through the process, and that Mayday will always be clear on what can and can't be delivered as the scheme progresses. The plans for Saxon Vale are very ambitious, and I truly hope they succeed. But for now, I hope this executive gives Mayday the chance and everyone involved in this process to get to celebrate this milestone achievement. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Anna. And move on to item 5 on our agenda, which is the Mayday Saxon Vale presentation.
Good afternoon, councillors. After last summer's meeting, we've been engaged in open dialogue with your officers and advisors to understand and address the council's concerns regarding our scheme and delivery model. Saxon Vale is crucial to the town's future, and so it's entirely appropriate that any proposals are put under scrutiny. If we do go on to acquire and develop the site, we would continue to welcome engagement throughout the development. We would like to thank your officer, Adam Savory, in particular for his contribution in these constructive discussions, as well as his colleagues, Rebecca Jarman and Charlie Field, as well as from CBRE, James Blondell and Sophie Haslam. Our discussions have included setting out our intended governance and delivery framework. The model we're bringing forward is centred on bringing together local people who understand Frome and a team of professionals who can deliver the best possible outcomes. We believe passionately that the people of Frome are best placed to direct the design of a development in Saxon Vale. People who understand the needs, values and aspirations of the town. We also believe local people can directly contribute to the development in many ways, which will start from day one as we explore meanwhile uses for the site before development begins. If the council is minded to sell the site to Mayday today, then early next week, we will open for applications for Mayday Saxon Vale non-executive directors, with appointments intended to be complete by the end of March. The Mayday Saxon Vale board will help us to set the strategic vision for the development, review and approve the business plan and prospective planning applications, as well as providing ongoing oversight and scrutiny over the delivery. The Saxon Vale Development Company will be established as a subsidiary of Mayday Saxon Vale. This company will operate commercially, with profits recycled through phases and then being returned to Mayday Saxon Vale or investors. Compared to other development companies, the Saxon Vale Development Company will be given the unconventional remit of delivering a community-led vision. But our development approach is conventional. The company will engage Stories as development manager, who will be responsible for executing the business plan and delivering the scheme. The team at Stories have extensive regeneration experience, including leadership of the King's Cross development in London, as well as roles in house builders, Homes England government departments and local authorities. We have a professional team of architects and technical consultants that have obtained our existing outline planning permission. We will engage the necessary professional skills at each stage of the development. Whilst we are unashamedly ambitious in the outcomes we seek, we will naturally remain flexible and operate within viability constraints. We can announce that our joint venture partners in the Saxon Vale Development Company will be Kiss House. Kiss House is a pioneer in sustainable development and is in the process of receiving substantial investment for expansion. Kiss House will be providing the equity funding to buy the site and complete the development. Kiss House will also be our building and construction partners in Saxon Vale, bringing forward appropriate building systems and technologies that align with our plans and uses. Our partnership will be centred on a mission to develop with the lowest possible carbon footprint, with the highest levels of sustainability and the most energy efficient buildings. Saxon history is as the town's employment centre. In recent years, employment site after employment site in Frome has been lost to housing. Saxon is the last chance to deliver employment space in what is a highly developed town centre, in a growing town, and to then revitalise the town centre as a whole. Somerset Council has set a requirement for 11,850 square metres of commercial space in the town centre. If only half of this is delivered in Saxon Vale, which is the absolute minimum permitted, then the council's own policy for employment space and job generation in Frome can simply never be delivered. This is an area where we must start with the highest levels of ambition, and our plans include nearly 10,500 square metres of flexible and varied commercial space. We've listened to your concerns regarding the viability of delivering this space. We have provided evidence to support our view that delivering this quantum of commercial space is viable. Our funding agreement with Kiss House is designed to support this business plan, and we also plan to pursue additional grant funding to bolster this position. We will complete further research, product design, and market testing before we commence the delivery of this commercial space. We expect the market for commercial space to be further enhanced through the development itself and the attractive place to live and work that we create. If, after all of these steps, we conclude that the further delivery of commercial accommodation is indeed not viable due to inadequate demand, costs, or other factors, then we would look to change the use of buildings to residential. We have that with commercial space spread across development phases and buildings, we will have the time and space to be flexible and adjust our approach. We are not ideologically wedded to the delivery of commercial accommodation. We simply intend to maximise the viable opportunity to do so. Of the commercial space that we deliver, our ambition is to maximise the proportion of which will be retained as community-owned assets. These buildings and spaces will be places where the priorities of the town can play out for years to come. Working with local organisations, we've already developed plans for an enterprise centre with modular space, for new and growing private and social enterprises, a community cultural centre in the Western Warehouse and the surrounding suite of buildings, a making and creating building playing to Frome's strengths in this area, a circular economy hub, a community kitchen to support local food economy, food education, and local food businesses. Community ownership is central to how our towns take control of their future. This is how towns build long-term resilience and then require less support and the associated cost from their county council. Our plans will include at least 250 homes, adopt modern methods of construction, and at least 30% will be affordable homes. Following changes in our funding strategy, it is no longer a condition that Frome Area Community Land Trust lead on the acquisition of the site. Whilst the Land Trust will remain a partner in the design and delivery of the scheme, it will instead have the exclusive right to receive the freehold of any eligible affordable homes in Saxon Vale. These freeholds will ensure the tenure of the homes in perpetuity and provide a ground rent to the Land Trust, giving them the resources to expand and deliver more for Frome. We're eager, as I'm sure everyone is, to get started with the development and have provided you with our intended phasing plan. Post-site purchase, we will spend up to 12 months amending our outline application and completing reserved matters for phase 1, with works on site to follow thereafter. We will complete our detailed design process by bringing together our professional team and the local community in a structured process. We recognise that the only way to meaningfully create a place is to co-design with those who understand the history, context, and fabric of Saxon Vale and Frome. Development risk is an important consideration with a site of this size and complexity. We would contend that our model provides greater resilience and is lower risk than a standard developer. We will have no other developments in our portfolio to distract us, no other projects that could represent a solvency risk to us. We will not race through this development without sufficient care because we want to move to the next site. Through delivery above planning policy for commercial space, we have room for manoeuvre. From the start, we've approached Saxon Vale with one purpose, one mission: to transform Saxon Vale as a mixed-use urban regeneration project in a way that puts Frome and its community first at every stage. Mayday is setting a precedent for communities across the UK, demonstrating how to take charge of their own destinies and ensure adherence to local planning policies. The entirety of Mayday, along with countless individuals in our town, urge you to give the opportunity for this precedent to be set here in Frome. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Paul, for your presentation. I see we've got 126 people online, and I know that sometimes bandwidth struggles if we've got people with cameras on. So I think there's 4 or 5 people that I can see that still got their cameras on. It would really help if you could pop them off, if that's possible, please. And then we can make sure that we maintain the online broadcast. I really do want to be able to, for people to be able to follow this online. So I'd appreciate it if you could do that. Thanks. Are there any comments or questions from league members at this time? Not seeing anything, so we will move on to item 6, which is the Saxon Vale item on our agenda, and I'd like to invite Mr. Adam Savory, our senior property manager, to introduce the report and highlight some key points. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. Some of the key points I think have already been outlined in reports, but there are a few key elements just to bring out of the public report for members' consideration. We're here again following a recommendation from the Asset Management Group back in the summer last year and the Executive Board that an unconditional sale of the Saxon Vale site is the best strategy to make a significant contribution through a capital receipt to the council's financial position and to generate that capital receipt in a timely manner. I think it also relates to the wider objectives of the council and their wishes for the regeneration of the site. What needs to be recognised from the council's perspective on that is an unconditional sale is exactly what it says. And if we complete an unconditional sale, then the council will have no control or responsibility over that site. That passes solely to the purchaser of the site. And leading on from that, I think we come on to some of the key risks from the council's perspective. Clearly, has been set out, Mayday is a new organisation. In themselves, they don't have a track record of delivery. So there is a concern which is considered in the confidential papers about funding. We've had correspondence from Mayday on that, and we can discuss that later. I think Homes England is a key risk following on from an unconditional sale. The council received funding to commence enabling works, the site, to enable it to be redeveloped by any third party. That was through a local authority accelerated construction grant that was taken out by Mendip District Council. We are not able to novate that contract to any third party. So even with an unconditional sale, Somerset Council still has the responsibility for the deliveries of the outcomes of that local authority accelerated construction grant. Those are listed in the report. They are 249 homes, 25% affordable housing, all housing delivered at a rate above the current market rate once development commences, and also to use modern methods of construction in certain elements of that delivery of housing. If those outcomes are not delivered in their entirety on the site, then the council could be required to pay back that money. We have been in ongoing negotiations and conversations with Homes England throughout this process, and as it stands at the moment, they are very comfortable with the proposed way forward. Ultimately, what they want to see is what everyone wants to see, which is the site developed and houses delivered. If there was a scenario where the quantum of housing was less than the 249 homes, they would not automatically default in its entirety. There would be a sliding scale of recompense should we get to that stage 4 or 5 years down the line. We've discussed the Homes England arrangement with Mayday Saxon Vale team, and they're very keen to engage in those ongoing conversations. And as was set out, not specifically highlighted by Paul in his presentation, their current proposal delivers the requirements of the Homes England grant and more, if it's delivered. I think the other risk to this is a delay through whatever process. The council is very keen, and we're working towards, if a decision is made, to get a capital receipt in by the end of the financial year. That's a very tight timeline. So a delay would cause a risk in terms of the timing of a capital receipt if a decision is made to proceed. Other than that, Chair, I think most of the issues that we would raise would need to be discussed in private session. I'm happy to take, obviously, any questions at this stage.
I see Councillor Mike Rigby first. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Adam, and to Mayday for the presentations. Responsibility without authority is never a comfortable position to be in, but that's what this transaction would do to the council, in as much as we would be reliant on Mayday to meet the terms of the Homes England grant, or we would be on the hook to pay back effectively about 3/4 of what the capital receipt would be here. Have there been any discussions with Mayday about how easy they would find it to deliver the terms of that grant, such that we're not in a position that we have to pay it back? I've got a second question I'll come to in a minute, if I may.
Adam.
Yes, we've had many discussions with the Mayday team on that. They have they've undertaken through a proposed delivery agreement to include the requirements of Homes England grant in their delivery plan. The key point was the first point that you made. There is an element of trust in this. The council has no control over what is developed on that site, and if a scenario came where it wasn't delivered, it would be the council that would be liable for that funding under an unconditional sale. We're not allowed to put that as a condition in the sale on an unconditional basis. That would reduce the capital receipt that we would receive. So the proposal that we have on the table, the council remains liable for that, and there is I think the phrase that was used in July was there is a leap of faith in terms of the council and the trust of a third party to deliver their undertaking to meet those requirements.
Thank you, Adam. Is it possible to quantify that risk? I mean, how likely do we think that is to happen? You referred variously to a development agreement and a development plan. If it's an agreement, that sounds like something that has some enforceability. If it's a plan, perhaps less so. So I'm not sure how that agreement is drawn up. Is it something that is an agreement, or is it just a plan?
It's an agreement, but it's not agreement that the council would be party to. So we would have no influence over that.
And my second question, you talked about the need to make sure that the build out rate is higher than the local average. How's that calculated? Is it based on an old Mendip district plan area? If it's based on the faster build out rate than in Frome, that shouldn't be too difficult to do, should it?
That's a grey area in the agreement. It's through negotiation, effectively. Homes England would take a view based on the market. We've had that very discussion with Homes England. Their position is they're absolutely not going to make a developer, whoever that is, build houses if you can't sell them. So they're flexible. There's nothing set in stone in terms of the timeframes and what tolerance above a market level it needs to be delivered. That's part of the ongoing discussion that we would be having with Homes England and Mayday throughout the development.
Thanks, Bill and Adam. And finally, just to say that, I think there's much good to be said for the plan. These issues do concern me. Thanks for the responses that you've given. And I'll make a decision based on the rest of the information that we get through today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I'll move on to Liz Lyshawn and then Sarah Wakefield. Please.
Thank you, Chair. Adam, I think I heard you refer to 4 or 5 years at some point as you introduced the paper. So I have to ask, how long would Somerset Council remain responsible for all or any of the Homes England grant and possible repayment? Is it in terms of years? Is it indefinite? Are you able to tell us?
There's not a hard deadline because it depends on the pace of construction and build. So if the housing market crashes, that it could be the case where it takes 8 years to develop the site, and we'd be on for 8 years, but it would be a sliding scale. So as the site is developed and you have more houses that come online, we'd be having discussions with Homes England about the quantum of that exposure to claw back of the money going forward. So there's no hard and fast deadlines. It's through negotiation, and it's dependent on what happens in the housing market going forward.
Thank you. And moving on to Sarah Wakefield. Thank you, Sarah.
Is this working? Yes. A couple of questions. Carrying on with the Homes England. If they obviously will know that the site's been sold and is outside our control, are you sure that they wouldn't try and put a charge over it or something like that to protect the money?
They have no need to put a charge on the property itself because Somerset Council is liable for it. They're fully aware of the path that we're going down, and they're comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, the site, as everybody knows, is on a slope. It's got a lot of buildings and concrete and all sorts of stuff on it. Have we shared with Mayday all the site investigations that we've carried out? Because it wasn't mentioned in the Mayday outline that they gave, and I'm just a bit worried that people don't really get how much work there needs to be done on this site to even start work on it. And I'm really proud of what you're doing for the town, and I think it's great that everybody is so enthusiastic, but there is a massive, I mean, I know a little bit about development, and I looked around the site and I was horrified, frankly.
Thank you. Yes, we have shared the work that's been done so far through the remediation that Balfour Beatty ran for us under the Homes England, and the work that was done prior to the purchase by Mendip District Council.
We can safely say that this group are going into it with their eyes open about that.
Yes, and I think they're very familiar with the site as well.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Richard. Councillor Richard Wilkins. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, everyone, for the report. It's great to see that there's been positive engagement, as far as I can see, between the council and Mayday. I seem to remember I had a few concerns over the governance of Mayday in our last meeting, and seeing there has been changes to the framework, I think it's fair to say, of the governance. I just still got the concerns about the actual people in place. Have you been cited on the thoughts on that, or is this a concern of yours yourself, or do you feel that Mayday have made the appropriate changes?
It's not a concern from my perspective. I think what we were keen to see was that an appropriate governance structure was put in place. I think in terms of the individuals who are appointed to those posts, you're almost in a chicken and egg situation. In terms of do you appoint prior to a decision that's made by the executive, or do you appoint after that decision has been made? I think we're probably looking at the latter. The governance structure that's been provided provides me with comfort that they've listened to the feedback from last time and they've taken appropriate steps to address those concerns.
Thank you, Chair. If I may just come back, just one more comment. It's not really a question. I just want to...
of Axel Rudiker Barnett, the Southport murderer, as he claims.
Okay, just we've got some disruption from somebody online. Please can we make sure you're muted online? Thank you. Okay, my apologies, Liz.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make the point that when...
Across the UK.
Can we do a mute all? Just the tech team can identify the culprits. Yeah. Yep, they've managed to silence them. It's great to have a gagging order so easily available, isn't it? Liz, my apologies.
Thank you. For those of us who've previously sat in Mendip meetings, we know that when this site was purchased by Mendip and the whole site put together from different holdings, that risk then sat with the taxpayers of Mendip District. Since the vesting day, of course, in 23, any residual risk on the Homes England grant now sits with the wider taxpayers of all of Somerset. So I just wanted to make that point because it is a significant change to me. That might spread the risk across a greater number of people. And if you're doing crowdfunding or something like that, it's fine. But when you're paying council tax, I think we need to acknowledge that the residual risk sits across the whole of Somerset now, if this were to go through today. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Not seeing any other lead members who wish to comment, so move on to other Somerset Council members in the room. Is anybody indicating that they wish to speak? Go on first.
Thank you very much. Somerset Councillor Frome North. This sale has to be about delivery. Somerset Council has a responsibility to those in Frome, but also to those across Mendip whose money paid for the site in the first place. It's an expensive site to clear, and the delivery has to be viable for the town, but also we have to focus on the word value. We also know that if Mendip had not sat on this for as long as it did, it would have been half developed, and we would probably have people living in these homes already, and we know that there are over 1,000 people across the area waiting for a home. And I think it would also be easier for us to be fighting off applications like Selwood Garden Community and Pack Saddle. The decision today has to be about value, and I'll carry on emphasising that because I think that's what's really important here in all senses. My big question really is, what happens if this doesn't go through today? What are the options for Somerset Council?
Adam, would you like to pick that one up?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so other options that would be available if we didn't go through, if this didn't go through today, are set out in the paper. I think the only course that would be open to the council would be to go to the open market and look at the options of unconditional or conditional sales on the open market.
Thank you, Dawn. I think it would be easier to move across the front row because I think several of you put your hands up simultaneously. Michael.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to point out that when this was initially a scheme which the present administration, being Lib Dem, inherited way back in 2019, I think it was, the money was paid, I think, out of funds which I think you couldn't say were just Mendip funds. So the fact that the money from this is going back to Somerset means that Somerset should really bear the risk. I don't see how you can use any other logic really, because Somerset are going to benefit from this money, which unfortunately is not as much as initially paid for the site, but that's life. The other thing I was wondering about was if you imagined that Acorn hadn't pulled out of this, would you still have concerns about the the management of them taking over. I think retrospectively, one has had a lucky escape from that.
I think I need to stop you there. I'm really sorry, Mick.
I know, but I'm just putting in your worries about this present scheme into perspective, and I'm saying that just because a developer is a standard developer doesn't mean to say that there aren't risks, and I think that's a good point to make. I don't think anyone can gainsay that. There are risks to do with commercial development or any development, and I think it doesn't do to blow up the risks. We've got some very good people here, and I think it's such an unusual scheme, yes, but the benefits and the benefits from Somerset, who will be able to glow in the afterglow, I think are too good to ignore. Thank you.
You may cut. Just a reminder, you will be given an opportunity in private session to speak again. Just be very careful you stay on the right line of commercial, confidential and financial information. I think you did, mate, but just a heads up that I don't want to have to do anything. Martin, you promised at the start you weren't going to say anything. Do you feel inspired yet? No. Shane? No. Adam? Yeah, I've got two Adams, and Mr. Savoury, and then I'll come to Adam Boyden.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, Councillor Boyden. I think just on that last point, just to reassure members that risk was raised in the paper that was considered in July. So we're treating the position exactly the same today as we did back in July.
Thank you. Councillor Boyden. Hello, Adam.
Hello. Hi. Hello, Executive. Hello again. I meet you in different forms and places, don't I? Thank you for coming here, and I must say thank you to all the people here and online, because it's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it? I've been a councillor, I've been living in Frome for 22 years, a councillor for 13 or 14, and this has been an issue, this site's been an issue since way before I came here, way before I was a councillor, and finally we have a recommendation from an officer team to sell the site. Thankfully, thanks to Mendip in its various forms, with assembled the land purchase several years ago, several developers have come and gone. And originally there was a Terramond application for outline, which was Section 106 was never signed because of viability. That was just before I became a councillor. And then we've had a proposal for a supermarket, which had a massive opposition group, and a retail park, which was never submitted, and then Acorn. And then Mendip collated the site, and Acorn came and went. And then Mayday appeared as a protest group initially against or objecting to Acorn, the proposal. And then there's a judicial review, and then Acorn's permission disappeared. And then Mayday became a professional outfit with a planning application and a funding mechanism and a huge community following in Frome. It's unprecedented as far as I can see. And how resilient are they? They have fought for this day for years, and ground conditions, building conditions, they're very much aware of. They've pored over the details, I'm sure, I know. And it's basically a very strong determination from a group of people who've gained a massive following in Frome, the support of Frome Town Council, the support of all the main Frome organisations, overwhelming support from anyone who knows or cares about this. And finally, we have an officer recommendation to sell the site to them. And looking at the papers, it's a good deal for Somerset Council, as far as I can see. There are risks of all sorts of things, but the risks of not doing this are a lot higher, I think, for Frome, for Somerset Council's reputation, for the community relations. They're a lot higher if we don't do this. So it's a big step for Somerset Council to sell this site. It's a good deal for Somerset Council, it's a good deal for Frome. It's also a giant leap, a great leap forward for Frome to do this, to hand over control, subject to planning. The planning authority still has the control of what gets developed, but to trust that this is going to go well, I have overwhelming trust that this will go well with the people in the room here and the people behind this and the people that support it. So I'm not sure what else I can say. It's a sustainable development for a brownfield site, very difficult, very complicated, yet people here want to develop that. on a community-led way forward. Unprecedented, but we have officer support for this. So I think I would just like to say, yes, please just do it. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the Somerset councillors. No, I did. I called her eye and she shook her head. So I know that's a decline from anyone. Just moving online. Are there any Somerset councillors who are attending in hybrid format who would like to speak or ask a question, please? Usually at the point I say I'm not seeing anybody, someone puts their hand up, but I'm not seeing anybody. So double checking there are no further comments or questions from Somerset councillors in the room. Okay, so we move on to the exclusion of the press and public, and I'm sorry about this, but you will understand that it's a legal necessity for us to go through this process. So I need a proposal to consider passing a resolution having been duly proposed and seconded in accordance with the Regulation 4 of the Local Authorities Executive Arrangements, Meetings and Access to Information England Regulations 2012, that the press and public be excluded from the meeting during this part of the agenda. Can I see a proposer for that? Councillor Shearer, seconded Councillor Rigby. We'll take a brief interlude for members of the public. Oh, those in favour, sorry. Those against, forgot that bit. Those we'll have a brief interlude for members of the press and public to leave the room. Only Somerset councillors and officers may remain for this part of the session. Thank you. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're reconvening the meeting of the executive to look at the sale of the land at Saxonvale. And just a particular welcome to 116 people online, which is slightly fewer than earlier, and all the people who've taken the trouble to come and attend the meeting and to listen to our deliberations today. And thank you for your patience while we've had to do some extra work in closed and private session. Particularly like to thank Frome Town Council for their hospitality in inviting us to. I always said that I wanted to make this decision in Frome because I thought it was right to make a decision about Frome in Frome. So I do thank the Town Council for their hospitality in allowing us to do that. So we have a recommendation that's from our officers, which I will read first of all. There is a small amendment that I'm going to propose from the chair, which is a drafting amendment because, and I'll explain the reason for that once I've given it. So the recommendations are to note under section 123 of the Local Government Act 1972, Somerset Council has power to dispose of land not held for housing or planning purposes in any way it sees fit, providing it obtains the best consideration reasonably obtainable for that land. See legal and procurement implications below. And note the valuation of the site, which is based on current planning policy conditions, as a value reasonably attainable. B, to note the site was identified as surplus at the executive meeting on the 31st of July 2024, following a recommendation from the Asset Management Group. C, to agree the surplus site should be sold at a value above the reasonably attainable valuation. D, to note and consider the funding letter supplied to support the proposal from Mayday Saxonvale Development Limited. And E, subject to the above, to agree the council should proceed towards an unconditional sale of the site to Mayday Saxonvale Development Limited, with a completion date prior to the 31st of March 2025, and to delegate responsibility for completing the necessary due diligence prior to sale and exchange on and completion of the sale to the, and this is where there's an amendment to the words, Executive Director for Community, Place and Economy, in consultation with the lead member for Economic Development, Planning and Assets and the interim head of legal services, to ensure continued compliance with legal requirements and process as regards the council's statutory duties on a sale under section 123, an updated valuation of the land will be obtained on or before exchange of contracts. And F, agrees to the case for appendices 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 to be regarded as exempt information to be treated in confidence as the case for the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Now, colleagues, the reason for the drafting amendment is because we felt it was unwise to delegate a decision to an interim who was from outside the organisation. Okay, has anyone got any concerns about the changes in wording? No, so we're happy with the recommendation as stated. So we have had a considerable debate, and we know from last summer how passionate people in Frome are about this site. The decision we have to make today is about an unconditional sale of land that has been acquired by predecessor councils. And we have had to make a full consideration of the risks that are involved in that. We have to think about all the people of Somerset as well as what is the right decision for people in Frome. And for many of us, the biggest risk of all was that this land would be undeveloped for a considerable period of time longer. We considered risks around the Homes England funding and the liability that might fall on Somerset Council should the affordable housing not be delivered, the risks around viability, the risks around governance, the risk around financing, and the risks around the economic climate. We took into account the decisions that were the advice that we received from our consultant CBRE, to whom we are very grateful. So the Mayday plans, we recognise how ambitious they are, how exciting they are for the local community. We recognise the tenacity, the resilience that Mayday have shown. We have a decision to make based on a balance between the risk that is presented to the council, the return we will get on this land, and also the advantages to the people of Somerset, and especially the people of Frome. Can I see a proposer for the recommendation, please? Councillor Theo Butt-Philip. May I see a seconder for the recommendation, please? Councillor Liz Lisham. Can I see all those in favour of the recommendation, please? Can I see those against the recommendation, please? Can I see any abstentions? That recommendation is clearly carried. Well, I can say I've never had a round of applause like that for a decision from a Somerset Council executive decision before. Can I thank everybody for your attendance and forbearance with us? To colleagues in Mayday, I'd like to highlight a couple of phrases that I wrote down during the debate that was mentioned, that this is a leap of faith and a great leap forward, I think was Councillor Boyden's phrase. And to a great extent, we had to look before we leaped. It was really, really important that we gave due diligence to this decision. I would highlight that date of the 31st of March. I really do not want a third part to this trilogy. So if we are here back again in April, then that will be a very unfortunate situation. So I hope that if we could have underlined and put in bold that date, we would have done. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for your attendance and forbearance while we've reached this decision, and I'd like to wish you a safe journey home. Thank you.